That's my money.
Step back, now! What? Back! Back! No! Keep your hands where I can see them. Stay still, ma'am.
Please, I'm not doing anything.
Officer, she's resisting.
I'm cooperating.
Where did you get all this cash?
Don't lie to me.
Should we inventory it here first?
No. Write what I tell you.
You can't just take it! Let me go, that's mine!
Ma'am, stop resisting. This cash is being seized pending investigation.
Receipt for seized property.
Please, listen to me.
He missed the one thing watching him.
Sergeant Wade Holloway thought he was stopping a nervous black woman in an old car on a Friday afternoon. He was wrong. He had just pulled over a retired federal judge who had spent 28 years sending people exactly like him to prison. And, unlike the dozens of frightened civilians he had robbed on Interstate 285, this woman had been expecting him for 3 weeks. She was ready. He was not. But here is what nobody tells you about justice. It is never as clean as it looks from the outside. And Gloria Reeves, for all her preparation, he was about to find out that being right and being safe are two very different things. 2 years before any of this happened, a man named Marcus Wheeler parked his food truck on the corner of Roswell Road and Sandy Plains in Marietta, Georgia. At 6 in the morning, he had spent 4 years building that truck from a used catering van he bought with a personal loan and a prayer. The menu was simple grilled fish sandwiches, sweet potato fries, homemade lemonade. By 10 in the morning, on any given weekday, there was a line. On Fridays, the line went around the corner. On a Tuesday afternoon in October, Holloway's unit pulled Marcus over on I-285 and found $23, 0 inches cash in a lockbox under the passenger seat. It was the operating capital for the next quarter food inventory, commissary fees, fuel, a loan payment. Marcus had the receipts. He had the bank withdrawal records. He had a letter from his vendor confirming the upcoming purchase. None of it mattered. The money was seized under civil asset forfeiture. Marcus was given a receipt with an illegible signature and told he could petition the county for its return. By the time he paid his attorney's initial retainer, $3, woo-bye, scraped together from what was left in his personal account, he had missed his rent payment on the commissary kitchen where he prepped his food. They dropped him. Without the kitchen, he couldn't operate. Without operation, he couldn't make money. Without money, he couldn't fight. The truck sat in his driveway for 14 months. His daughter, who was 7 years old, stopped asking when Daddy was going to take the fish sandwich truck out again, sometime around month 4. She had learned that the question made him look at the floor. Gloria Reeves had spoken to Marcus Wheeler by phone on a Wednesday night, 3 weeks before she drove her nephew's old Honda Accord onto Interstate 285 with $180. Newlinch, a duffel bag in the trunk, and a camera hidden in the broken left taillight. Tell me what happened, she had said. He told her all of it, including the part about his daughter. When he was done, Gloria said, "Mr. Wheeler, I'm going to need you to be patient a little longer. Can you do that?" He was quiet for a moment. "I've been patient for 2 years. Ma'am, I know. I'm sorry. A little longer." She had spoken to 13 others after that. A Ghanaian woman named Denise Okafor, who ran a hair salon in Smyrna and who had lost $45, 0 inches operating reserves enough to keep the salon open. Barely. But not enough to hire the second stylist she needed to grow. An elderly couple, James and Carla Witten, 71 and 69, who had been carrying $62, 000 to purchase a mobile home, their entire retirement plan, when Holloway's unit stopped them on a Sunday morning. They were still renting, 37 families in total. Over 6 years, 37 people who had trusted the system and been robbed by it. In uniform. In broad daylight. With receipts. That was the file Gloria had been building for 3 weeks. That was what was in her laptop. Not the duffel bag. Now understand who Wade Holloway actually was. Because he was not stupid. That is the thing people get wrong about men like him. They think corruption requires stupidity. It does not. It requires patience and institutional knowledge, and the understanding that most people will absorb an injustice before they will fight one. Holloway had learned this early and refined it carefully over 6 years. He had survived 2 internal affairs investigations. The first time, a witness recanted after what the witness later described to a GBI investigator as a conversation I did not want to have. The second time, security camera footage from a gas station near a contested stop was deleted from the owner's DVR system before it could be subpoenaed. Holloway had never touched the DVR himself. He had not needed to. He was also, to his credit, genuinely good at reading people. He had developed an instinct for the gap between what a person presented and what they were actually feeling, and he had learned to exploit that gap with precision. He dressed down for highway stops. No tactical vest unless necessary. Badge on the belt. Not a chien. Hands visible. Voice measured. He wanted to look like a reasonable man doing a reasonable job. Because reasonable men do not get complained about. What he had never developed, because he had never needed to, was the ability to recognize a trained observer looking back at him. Gloria Reeves had spent 28 years reading people from the bench. She had watched defense attorneys perform innocence. She had watched prosecutors perform certainty. She had watched defendants perform remorse and witnesses perform memory. She knew what a person's eyes did when they were calculating. And she knew what Holloway's eyes were doing the moment he looked at her license. He was deciding. She let him decide. The car was her nephew's 2009 Honda Accord, borrowed specifically for this purpose. The taillight had been broken for 4 months. She had asked him not to fix it. The camera inside the housing had been installed 11 days earlier in her own garage. She had learned the installation procedure at a technology seminar for federal judges in 2019 and had written detailed notes that she kept in a folder labeled administrative. The camera fed to an encrypted cloud server. It captured audio and video, or it was supposed to. What Gloria did not know, pulling onto the shoulder of I-285 at 417 on a Friday afternoon, was that the audio feed had developed an intermittent dropout at frequencies below 200 Hz. A truck had driven past the garage during installation, vibrating the housing just enough to loosen one solder point. The effect was that voices captured while the car's engine was running would cut in and out. She would not discover this until she reviewed the footage at home that evening. The visual feed was clean. The audio. During the most critical exchange, Holloway announcing the seizure, stating the grounds, confirming the amount cut out for 11 seconds. 11 seconds she did not have. It was 417 on a Friday afternoon when the lights came on behind her. Gloria saw them in her rearview mirror and felt nothing shift inside her chest. She activated her right turn signal and eased the Accord onto the shoulder. She turned down the gospel music, but did not turn it off. In her side mirror, she watched Holloway climb out. He moved with the easy confidence of a man who had done this 10,000 times. His partner, Deputy First Class Cody Reel, pulled up behind in a second vehicle. Reel was 29. 8 months into the unit, he stood by the shoulder with his notebook and watched the highway. Holloway came to her window. She had already lowered it. "Ma'am, are you aware you have a non-functioning brake light?" "I was not," Gloria said. "I apologize." "Officer, I'll get that seen to. License and registration, please." She produced them without fumbling. Her hands did not shake. Her eyes met his with the calm directness of a woman accustomed to controlling rooms. He looked at the license, then at her face, then back at the license. She watched his eyes. There was no recognition. He had sat 8 feet from her in federal court for 4 hours 5 years ago. But she had been behind the bench, and he had been looking at his attorney. He had never known her name. Ms. Reeves, where are you headed this afternoon? Home. I was visiting my sister in Smyrna. And what's in the back of the vehicle? Groceries and some personal items. She nodded toward the celery stalks visible in the bag on the passenger seat. He was quiet for a moment. The calculation was running. Ma'am, I'm going to be candid with you. We've had reports of narcotics being transported through this corridor today. I'd like to have a look in your trunk. Of course, Gloria said. She stepped out. They walked to the rear. She popped the trunk. He saw the duffel bag immediately. What's in the bag? Cash, she said. Reale, standing nearby, looked up from his notebook. How much cash? $180,000. Holloway's expression did not change, but she saw the small recalibration. People who were actually smuggling money did not say it like that flat. Helpful. The way you'd answer a question about the weather. He knew this, and yet the cash was right there. I'm going to need you to step to the rear of my vehicle while I conduct a thorough inspection. From where she stood at the back of Holloway's cruiser, Gloria watched him reach into the trunk and unzip the duffel bag. She watched Real walk over and look in. She saw Real's mouth say something. She was too far away to hear it clearly. But from the shape of the words she thought, he said, "Should we inventory it here first?" Holloway said something back. One word. Sharp. Real looked away. That moment, Real's hesitation. Holloway's dismissal would matter later. Holloway transferred the cash to a county evidence bag. He produced a seizure receipt from his pocket. He scribbled a signature that was barely legible and handed it to Gloria. She read it carefully. The amount listed was $180. Ling, ling, ling. She folded the receipt and put it in the pocket of her cardigan. Thank you, officer. Have a good evening. Ms. Reeves, don't leave the county without notifying our office. She drove home. She poured a glass of water. She sat at her kitchen table and pulled up the footage on her laptop. The video was clear. She could see Holloway approach the window, conduct the exchange, walk her to the trunk, open the duffel bag. She could see his hands. She could see the transfer. And then, for 11 seconds that covered the moment he announced the seizure and stated the grounds, the audio cut out completely. When it returned, he was zipping the bag. The announcement, the words that gave her the legal basis for her challenge, that proved he had named a reason on the record, was gone. For the first time since she had put this plan into motion 3 weeks ago, Gloria Reeves sat with something she had not planned for. She sat with it for a long time. Then she opened a new document and wrote at the top, "What I still have." She listed everything: the visual footage, the receipt with his signature, which listed $180. Ling, ling, ling. The bank withdrawal documentation for the full amount, the discrepancy she expected to find between the receipt and the evidence log, her own sworn testimony, and the 11 seconds of missing audio, which was itself a problem but which could not be manufactured by Holloway. Either she was not out. She was just going to have to fight harder. On Monday morning, Gloria walked into the Cobb County Sheriff's Office and filed a petition for the return of her seized assets. She was given a form. She completed the form. On Wednesday, she called the number on the form and was transferred twice and disconnected. On Thursday, she retained Philip Osei, a civil forfeiture attorney with 11 years of experience, who met her in his conference room with coffee and a yellow legal pad and listened without interrupting for 40 minutes. When she finished, he set down his pen. Judge Reeves, Gloria. He paused. I have to be honest with you. What you're describing, the setup, the camera, the deliberate provocation of a known corrupt officer, there's an argument that what you did constitutes entrapment, a civil rights argument, not a criminal one. But Holloway's attorneys will raise it. They can raise it. It won't succeed. I placed myself in a position where the natural course of his established conduct led to a foreseeable outcome. I did not induce him to commit a crime he would not otherwise have committed. He has been doing this for 6 years. You know the law. I've written opinions on it. Philip looked at her for a moment. The audio gap is a problem. It's the problem. Without him stating grounds on the record. The seizure looks procedurally compliant. He'll say he followed protocol. He'll say you misunderstood the nature of the stop. Then, we need the evidence log. Gloria said, if the logged amount matches the receipt, we have no financial discrepancy and no leverage. But if he skimmed, and he has been skimming from every seizure for 6 years, I am certain of it. The log will show a number lower than what's on that receipt. That would be theft. Philip said, not just misconduct, theft. Yes. Can you get it? In discovery, eventually. But Cobb County's legal department will delay. We're looking at months before we see anything. Then we need a faster way in. She paused. I have a call to make. Philip watched her stand up. Gloria, are you sure you want to do this? She looked at him. A man named Marcus Wheeler hasn't been sure about anything for 2 years. I owe him a little certainty. The man she called that evening was the Honorable Eugene Farris, 71, retired senior judge of the 11th Circuit. He was also, in a capacity that had never been publicly disclosed, an informal liaison to the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. He answered on the second ring. It's Gloria. I need your help. I know. He said, I saw a report cross my desk last month. A GBI analyst flagging patterns in Cobb County forfeiture data. I wondered when you'd call. I did something that may complicate things. She told him about the camera, about the 11-second gap, about the entrapment argument Philip had raised. Eugene was quiet for a moment. Georgia is a one-party consent state for recordings. You were present during the stop. The recording is legal. I know that. The entrapment argument is thin. You didn't create the crime. You documented one in progress. I know that too. But Philip is right that Holloway's attorneys will raise it. And in the interim, it gives the county a reason to slow walk everything. What do you need from me? I need to know if the DOJ has anything on this unit. And I need to know before they tell me to stand down. Another silence. Longer this time. I'll make a call. But Gloria, prepare yourself. If they have something running, they will not want you anywhere near it. He was right. Eugene called back 36 hours later. The DOJ had a 14-month investigation into a broader corruption network in Cobb County. Holloway's unit was a component. A county commissioner was involved. 2 civilian contractors were receiving distributions from the forfeiture pool. If Gloria moved publicly, she would burn 18 months of federal work. They want me to wait. She said, yes. How long? They couldn't give a number. Gloria set the phone down on the table and looked at the window. Outside, the street was ordinary. A neighbor was walking a dog. An oak tree was losing its leaves in the October wind. Everything looked exactly like nothing was wrong. She thought about Marcus Wheeler's daughter, who had stopped asking about the food truck. She thought about Carla Witten, 69 years old, still renting. She thought about Denise Okafor, holding a ledger that didn't balance anymore. She thought about the 11 seconds of silence on her laptop. She picked up the phone. Tell them, no, she said. Tell them I have documented footage of a serving officer conducting a seizure. A signed receipt in my possession for $180. Ling, ling, ling. And a strong expectation that the evidence log will show a lower number. Tell them I have a financial profile on Wade Holloway showing $600. 0 inches assets. His salary cannot explain. And tell them that if they cannot give me a specific date, not a range, a date I will file in federal court on Monday morning and hold a press conference at noon. I will not name their investigation. I will not have to. The story will do that for me. You'd be burning them. Eugene said quietly, they've had 14 months. Gloria said, 37 families have had longer. If they had enough to act, they would have acted. They need what I have, so they can either work with me or watch me. She paused, and Eugene, I need you to know something. That $180, nulla is not symbolic. It's my retirement account. It's everything I have outside my pension. If I don't get it back, I cannot afford to stay in my house for more than 2 years. I am telling you this not for sympathy, but because you should know the stakes when I say I am not bluffing. Eugene did not respond immediately. When he did, his voice was different, quieter. I'll call Washington. The DOJ gave her 60 days. In those 60 days, Wade Holloway began to make mistakes. The first was the envelope. 3 days after the DOJ conversation, Gloria had a forensic accountant. She trusted a woman named Patricia Sung, who had worked financial fraud cases for 20 years, pull every available public record on Holloway, property records, boat registration, vehicle titles, court filings. Patricia found the credit union account in Kennesaw registered under Holloway's wife's maiden name within 48 hours. 6 deposits over 3 years, 214美元. Zero total. Gloria had a single-page photocopied, and an intern from Phillips' firm place it on the windshield of Holloway's personal truck outside a restaurant in Marietta. 4 words at the bottom, in block letters. I know about the boat. She needed him scared. Scared men talk. And Holloway's department-issued phone was about to become very interesting to the right people. The second mistake was the newspaper. 1 week after the stop, Philip filed a civil lawsuit against Cobb County, attaching the receipt, a declaration from Gloria, and a demand for the evidence log. The filing was public record. The AJC reporter, who had been monitoring Cobb County forfeiture data for 2 years, found it within hours. Her story ran the following morning careful. Factuel. Sourced only to public documents. It did not name Holloway. It noted that a seizure of $180, 000, from a retired legal professional had been filed in the evidence system as $150. Ling ling ling. It included 6 years of statistical data showing 89% of Holloway's unit's seizures targeted Black and Latino drivers. The next morning, Holloway was called into Captain Dennis Pryor's office. Pryor was 56 years old. A careful man, the kind of administrator who knew exactly how far every line could be bent without breaking. He had been receiving a 4% administrative cut from the unit's forfeiture pool for 4 years. He had never asked questions. He had never needed to. It's a newspaper story. Pryor said, we've weathered them before. This one is different. How? Holloway almost told him about the envelope. He didn't. She filed suit. She has the receipt. She's going to get discovery. Discovery takes time. Our lawyers will delay. The receipt shows $180. Ling ling ling. The evidence log shows $150. Ling ling ling. Pryor was very still. That's a documentation error. Pryor said, slowly, that's what it needs to be. Holloway said, on paper. Can you make it that I need time? How much? A week? Pryor looked at him for a long moment. 1 week. And Wade, no more freelancing. You talk to me before you do anything. Holloway agreed. He did not comply. The third mistake was Patricia Sung's second finding. While building Holloway's financial profile, she cross-referenced his asset log against the county's forfeiture distribution records and found something Gloria had not expected: a secondary channel. The money was not simply being split between Holloway and his unit. A portion, roughly 12% of each seizure, running through a vendor account registered to a company called Meridian Administrative Services LLC, was flowing upstream. Patricia traced Meridian to a holding company. The holding company's registered agent was an attorney whose firm had donated $40,000 to the county commissioner's last 2 campaigns. Gloria called Eugene at 11 o'clock at night. There's a third party, she said. Above Holloway, above Pryor. A county commissioner named Aldrin Walsh. He's been receiving distributions through a shell company for at least 3 years. Silence. Then the DOJ already knows. Of course they do. That's why they needed 60 days. Walsh is the top of it, isn't he? Gloria, it's all right. I'm not going to do anything with it. Not yet. But I need you to tell them that I know, because when this is over, Walsh goes down with Holloway. That is not negotiable. The 4th mistake was the one that changed everything on a Thursday morning, 3 weeks before the deposition Philip had scheduled. Gloria received a call from her daughter in Charlotte. Mom. Her voice was careful in the way adult children get when they are frightened and trying not to show it. Someone called my office today, said they were doing a background check, asked my employer if I had any relatives with legal issues. Gloria set down her coffee. Did they give a name? No. Are you all right? I'm fine. My boss thought it was strange. He told me. Mom. What is going on? For a moment, just a moment, Gloria felt something she had been managing very carefully for 3 weeks break the surface. Not anger, something quieter. The recognition that she had built her entire plan around the assumption that Holloway would not reach beyond her. She had protected her nephew by keeping him uninvolved. She had protected Philip by maintaining the legal fiction of a normal client relationship. She had not fully accounted for her daughter, Hirhen, holding the phone, was not entirely steady. She steadied it. I need you to do something for me, she said. Document the call. Date. Time. What was said. Send it to me in writing. And if anyone contacts you again, anyone you call Philip Osei, before you say a single word, you're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry, but it's almost over. After she hung up, she sat in the kitchen for 20 minutes. She opened the folder with a list of 37 names. She read Marcus Wheeler's name at the top. Then she called Philip. I want to amend the complaint, she said. Add a cause of action for witness harassment and intimidation of a third party related to active litigation. We can do that, Philip said. It strengthens our position considerably. But Gloria, it also escalates. Holloway will know we're treating this as active intimidation. Good, she said. I want him to know. She also called Eugene and told him about the call to her daughter. He was quiet for a moment, then said something she had not expected. I need you to consider something, he said. There is a version of this where you get your $180, 000 back, and Holloway gets a reprimand and a civil settlement and a letter in his file. That version is available right now. Today. No deposition. No disclosure. No risk to your daughter. Gloria said nothing. I'm not recommending it. Eugene said, I'm telling you it exists. I know it exists. Gloria said, it exists for me. It doesn't exist for Marcus Wheeler. It doesn't exist for Denise Okafor. It doesn't exist for the Wittens or the other 34 people on this list. She paused. I made a choice 3 weeks ago. I'm not unmaking it because Holloway is scared and doing stupid things. She heard Eugene exhale slowly. Then let's finish it, he said. Sandra Kwon at the GBI had been running a parallel financial investigation for 6 weeks. Working under a federal warrant, Eugene had helped expedite. She had been inside Cobb County's budget systems, mapping the flow of forfeiture revenue through Meridian Administrative Services and back to Walsh's network. She had what she needed for the criminal case. What she needed from Gloria was the point of seizure evidence, the footage, the receipt, the testimony that would anchor the unit-level charges they coordinated on a Sunday afternoon by phone. Sandra walked Gloria through exactly what the prosecution would need. and exactly what the 11-second audio gap would and would not affect. The visual shows the transfer. Sandra said, the receipt shows $180. Ling, ling, ling. The log shows $150. Ling, ling, ling. The discrepancy is documented without the audio. But without the audio, Holloway can argue he stated grounds correctly and there was a clerical error in the log. He can argue that we have something else, a pause, reale. His partner, who has been cooperative since we contacted him 8 days ago, he was present for the seizure. He heard Holloway announce grounds, and he's the one who filled out the log at Holloway's instruction. For the lower number, Gloria was quiet. He was the one who hesitated. She said, at the trunk, he says Holloway told him, write what I tell you. He's been carrying that for 8 months. When we showed him the scope of what the unit had done, he didn't need much persuading. He's 29 years old. Gloria said, yes. Make sure the prosecution knows he showed doubt. At the trunk, before any of this, it matters. On a Friday morning, 61 days after the stop on I-285. Gloria was at her kitchen table with a coffee and her legal pad when her phone rang. It's done. Sandra said, 6 a.m. Holloway, arrested at his residence. Real, surrendered voluntarily at the station per his cooperation agreement. Pryor, arrested at the precinct at 6:15. Walsh, the commissioner, arrested at his home in Kennesaw at 6:05. Gloria closed her eyes. The others, 9 more arrests across Cobb and Gwinnett. Contractors, an attorney, 2 county employees, 14 total in the coordinated action. Marcus Wheeler. Gloria said, have someone contact him before the news breaks. He deserves to hear it from a person, not a television. Already done. Sandra said, I called him at 5:45 this morning. After the call, Gloria did not turn on the television. She did not check the news on her phone. She sat at the table and looked at the October light coming through the window. And she allowed herself, for the first time in 62 days, to simply sit. Her hand had shaken on the phone when her daughter called. That was the part she kept coming back to, not the 11-second gap, not the DOJ pushback, not the envelope or the lawsuit or the financial shell company. The moment her hand was not entirely steady, she was not ashamed of it. She was human. She had put $180, 000 of her retirement into a duffel bag and driven onto a highway where a corrupt officer had been taking money from working people for 6 years. And for a moment, one moment, she had understood very clearly what it meant to be one of those people. Frightened. Alone. Holding a receipt that didn't mean anything. She had chosen to keep going anyway. That choice had cost her daughter a frightening phone call she would not forget. The relationship would be fine. Her daughter was strong. They were close, but something had shifted in it. A small permanent awareness of vulnerability that had not been there before. That was the price. Gloria thought it was worth it. She thought about the Wittons. She decided it was worth it. At 8 o'clock that morning, she got in her car and drove to Marietta. Marcus Wheeler lived in a small house on a street with old oak trees and cracked sidewalks. When Gloria knocked, he answered the door in a work shirt, coffee in hand, looking like a man who had been awake since before 5. He recognized her from their phone call. They had done a video conference once. He looked at her for a moment. You came, he said. I said I would. He stepped back and let her in. The kitchen was small and clean. On the counter was a photo of his daughter in a Halloween costume from what looked like 2 years ago. She was dressed as a chef. Gloria sat across from him at the table. She did not bring a folder or a check or anything official. That would come through Philip and the county process in the weeks ahead. She had brought nothing except herself. It's not over, she said. The legal process will take months. The restitution fund has to be established and verified. Philip will walk you through it. But it started. Marcus said, it started. He looked at the photo of his daughter. She asked me last week when I was going to open the truck again. First time in almost a year, she asked. Gloria said nothing. She let that sit in the room for a moment. Outside on the street, a police cruiser passed slowly. Neither of them flinched. Wade Holloway was charged with civil rights violations under color of law, theft by taking tax fraud, conspiracy, and witness intimidation. Bond was denied. His lake house, his boat, and the balance of the credit union account in Kennesaw were seized under the same civil forfeiture statute he had used on 37 people who had no recourse. His attorney filed 3 motions in the first week. All 3 were denied by the same federal magistrate who had clerked for Gloria in 2003. Deputy Reel received a reduced charge in exchange for his cooperation. He lost his position with the department. He was 29 years old. What he did with the years ahead would be his own work to do. Captain Pryor resigned the morning of his arraignment. He did not speak to the press. Commissioner Walsh was indicted on 3 federal charges. He had been in office for 11 years. On the morning of his arrest, he had been preparing remarks for a community policing town hall. The AJC ran a long-form piece on Sunday, 200 words. The photographs of the 37 families, Marcus Wheeler's food truck in the header image. It was shared 140,000 times in the first 48 hours. 3 weeks later, Gloria received a certified letter from Cobb County confirming that $180,000 had been processed for return. She filed it in the same folder as Holloway's receipt, the barely legible signature, the wrong amount. The document that had started everything. She had one more call to make. She dialed her daughter. "It's over," she said. "A pause. Are you okay?" "I'm okay. I'm sorry about the call to your office. I should have warned you it might happen." "Mom." Her daughter's voice was careful and warm. "I would have told you not to do it. I know. Which is why you didn't tell me." "Yes." Another pause. Was it worth it? Gloria looked out the window at the ordinary street. The oak tree, the cracked sidewalk, the world exactly as it was, except that somewhere in Marietta, a man named Marcus Wheeler had a daughter who had asked again about the food truck. "Yes," Gloria said. "It was. There is a particular kind of arrogance that cannot imagine being outthought by someone it has already decided is powerless." Wade Holloway looked at a black woman in a pale blue cardigan and reading glasses and saw what he had always seen: someone who would absorb an injustice because fighting it cost too much. He was not unusual in this. He was simply, finally, wrong. Not because Gloria Reeves was invincible. She was not. Her hand had shaken. Her evidence had a gap. She had paid a price she had not fully calculated. She won because she was willing to keep going anyway. In the end, that was always the difference. Marcus Wheeler reopened his food truck the following spring. The line went around the corner on the first day. His daughter stood at the window and handed out lemonade. She was wearing a chef's hat. It was a Tuesday. If this story stayed with you, I want to hear why. Was there a moment where you thought Gloria had gone too far or not far enough? Leave it in the comments. The conversation down there is always worth reading. If someone in your life needs to hear a story like this today, share it with them and subscribe. Because the next story we're telling on this channel is the one that will make you question everything you thought you knew about who holds power in this country. See you then.